We've touched briefly on enforcement of environmental law. We talked a little bit about the mechanisms for bringing that out into Europe. Ireland is a signatory of the Aarhus Convention, and we are now in a situation where, whilst we do have some measures transposed into Irish legislation in terms of access to information, there are significant proportions of that convention that are yet to be integrated and transposed into Irish law. I note that the EU is currently, or rather in 2003, there were 2 directives which partially transposed the principles of Aarhus. Two-part question, really. Firstly, are there any plans to actually roll up Aarhus into a single directive to be able to, given that Ireland is the only EU member state that has not ratified Aarhus, to roll that up as a directive, and in particular to address the cost to the private citizen participating in environmental decision-making and access to justice. And this is particularly strong, I think, is the fact that as the only EU state to actually charge citizens for participation, whether the EU might consider the fact that other EU states have managed to make access to justice affordable and enshrined within national legislation.
I think, Peter, unless you have an answer, I think that's one we need to address to our experts.
I think Gentleman behind you might have an answer. Michael, do you want to say something about it?
A little bit, yeah. I've been studying the Aarhus Convention for the last 5 or 6 years, so I know a little bit about it. But essentially, the convention has been, as you say, ratified in every other EU country, but not in Ireland. And the explanations given by the Irish government is that they won't ratify the convention until the Irish legislation is in line with the convention. This is very interesting. I mean, we're talking about a convention is now 11 years old. We're going into 11 years old at this stage. And in that time, Ireland has made practically no efforts to transpose any legislation that might implement the convention. It's been forced into bringing about certain changes as a result of the EU directives 2003-4 and 2003-35, which provide for access to information in one case and public participation in decision-making in the other case. Now, the Access to Information Directive has been transposed to Irish law very late in the day, I have to say, but reasonably effectively. But the Directive on Public Participation hasn't been transposed, and is probably going to be transposed within the next few months. However, since July 16th of this year, the European Court has found Ireland not to be in compliance with Article 10A of that directive, which provides, as you said, for access to justice. And the reason why is because in the Convention it says that people are entitled to easy, cheap, effective access to justice, which provides effective remedies. Now, anybody who knows anything about going to court in this country will tell you there's no such thing as any of those things. and so consequently, whereas the government was about to ratify the Convention this autumn, it seems, now we have a situation where the European Court has ruled against Ireland, and therefore the Attorney General will probably argue that Ireland can no longer ratify the Convention because it is not in compliance with the directive which provides for the implementation of the Convention. So it's quite possible, and this is all up in the air at the moment, it's quite possible that the directive and the Convention may not be ratified for quite some considerable time, because as far as I can see, what's going to have to happen is that the judicial system is going to be severely changed, or structures put in place to provide for access to justice in order for Ireland to be in compliance with both the European Directive and the Convention. So the likelihood of anything happening here in the near future is pretty low. As far as the European Union is concerned, there has been a directive on access to justice floating around for the last 5 or 6 years within Europe, but the European member states don't want it, essentially. They don't want access to justice to be brought in as a directive because they're frightened to hell of what might happen if they did.